ودي لي سلامي يا رايح للحرم وادعي لي وسلم لي
Assalamu
على
alaikum, everyone.
هادي
Welcome to another episode from the Muslim Interlude podcast with your host Ismail. Today we've got brother Tanayah Sam with us from the TSA. You can see it there in the background, TSA Sports Education, TSA Projects, and he's here to share a little bit about TSA itself and his story. And we're going to talk a little bit about this little gem right here. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera, but After Hardship Comes Ease, about his book, which is filled with inspirational stories, filled with gems. Hey, there it is. We've got another one. That's a hard copy, signed copy. That's it. When Tanayah's carried it, it carries weight. It's worth more. Before we carry on, I'm not told you I was going to do this actually. Actually, let's do the little introductions. Assalamu alaikum firstly. How is everyone? How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. All is well, brother. We're just getting on with things, you know. As the title of my book says, After Hardship Comes Ease, you know, and we went through a bit of difficulty with the COVID and the lockdown and things, but you know, we're starting to see a bit of ease coming now, inshallah. So
Inshallah.
Part of life.
Yeah, we were just saying before this actually, I think people need ease more than ever, and they need people to facilitate it through from. So like people like yourself, you're saying you've got youth next door to you now, and you're still working. I mean, it's 7 p.m. at the moment. You're saying you work till 8 p.m., but they need it at the moment more so than ever, isn't it?
No doubt.
Hardships during COVID, people experience it differently, don't they?
Sahih.
So what I was going to do, just what we'd normally do, we introduce the host, and then I try to get a little bit more personal with the host, just asking a couple of questions. You know, Fresher Grounded's game, the question game, where you can ask a couple of questions, you get to know the speaker a little bit. We normally do it at the end. So have you played that game before? Okay, it's not a game really. It's just a series of questions in which normally it's back and forward, but obviously I don't answer the questions. I've not got much to add. So people like yourself, you can elaborate on the questions a little bit. It's only a couple, 3 or 4, just to get to know the speaker a little bit.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Inshallah. The first question here: what life question have you recently found an answer for?
What life question? SubhanAllah. What a deep one, man.
Started off deep, didn't it? I wasn't expecting it to go like that. But what is a life question?
That's what I'm trying to.
Life question. I guess a life question is different. It's different for every person, I'm guessing, because you might have. Okay, let me word it differently. What's the question that you may have had when you was younger or you were growing up, and now it's been answered for you as you've grown?
It's not recent, as in happened like yesterday, but in 2019 and 2020, I journeyed to Guyana and Africa, and my surname Sam, it comes from my maternal side of the family in Guyana, and I got to have a better understanding of my roots, my maternal roots, the namesake, so. And then traveling to Africa to get a bit better understanding of my roots as an Afro-Caribbean Muslim, and going through Gambia and Senegal, and people actually, referring to me in the native language as though they thought I was, from there. And people telling me, you're from the Fuller tribe, so these things really helped me gain a sense of understanding of my roots and that. So yeah,
that's good. How did that make you feel? Does it make you feel proud to be from the roots you are?
Yeah, most definitely, man, most definitely. And when you look at Islam and how the lineage is maintained and people know where people come from, it helps me feel like, because not really knowing, a descendant of the slave trade. So, a lot of our roots have been cut off. So yeah, it was most definitely helpful for me.
Yeah, no, it's good. I've actually got a friend from the Fuller tribe as well. I remember speaking about it a couple of years ago with him at university, and he was telling me.
Yeah.
Interesting fact. Here's another one. Tell me an Islamic reminder you once heard that has stayed with you to this day.
فَإِنَّ الْمَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Verily, after hardship comes ease. Indeed, after hardship Comes Ease.
Yeah, I like it. I can see you've taken it on with the book. Tell me something about your father or a father figure that you didn't appreciate until you became older. Oh, I've read the book. Okay, so about your uncle, let's say.
No, I would say just how hard parenting is, especially for teenagers. You know, there is no manual. So it's yeah, being a parent is very extremely rewarding. It's beautiful, but at times it can be challenging to be the best for your children. So
Have you
yeah.
found that out now more so because you work with the youth? Like you were saying, you're working with the youth now.
No,
With that parenting
I have
position.
6 children. So you know, and
Allah barik.
there's been periods in my life where I've been away from my children because of decisions that I've made, and so now the younger children that I have got to be more around and watch grow, it's like, oh, okay, and these are the things that I missed out on with the older ones. So yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, no, alhamdulillah. It's all a big journey.
For
You see
sure,
where
man.
it takes us. We're learning every day. I think I asked that question to someone else as well, and he said, "Oh, it was a similar question." He's saying that there's no question that I might answer it today is going to be different. Tomorrow it's going to be a different answer because you don't know what you've learned in that period of time either.
Sahih.
So here we've got you on today, basically to share your story. And I was saying to you before, even the podcast, that these stories are like Iman boosters for us as well. So you, as once a non-Muslim, you went through an amazing journey, and then you became Muslim. Now, alhamdulillah, you're doing the work with TSA and the likes to better yourself and the people around you as well. But where did your journey start? So you started in Birmingham. What was life like growing up in Birmingham at the time of maybe when you was growing up? Just a small summary. Like I said, I don't want to talk about it too much. I want people to actually get the book. But just at the beginning, just to summarize it, what was life like growing up?
I was born in Nechells, an area called Nechells, and then from there, at the age of 6, moved to Winton Green. So Winton Green now is a community that is very close to the local prison, and it's very close to what was a large mental asylum, All Saints Hospital. So, and then also we've got the hospital as well, for the medical hospital. And Winton Green, for me growing up, it was beautiful. I remember it fondly, but as I've got older now, I can recognize some of the deviancies that was around me. So, i.e., those with mental health issues who we would make fun of and want to chase us. Likewise, always seeing the prison. When I open the bathroom window, I can always see the prison. I'm always looking at the prison. So there's Handsworth is just up the road, and so Handsworth Carnival was something really significant for us within the community. There was over in Handsworth what we would call the front line, where now I understand drugs were being sold, and there was a lot of liquor drinking. But at the time, as a child, I saw it as a place where I could play the arcade machine Street Fighter, and I could see other people within the community that I've grown up with. So it's looking back now, I kind of see more of the deviant side of things, but as a child, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was fun. There was always adventures going on, playing on the train tracks and crazy stuff like that.
It's different now, isn't it, though, compared
But
to
at the time, now it's like, what? Well, you cannot do that. But to be fair, at that time, it was a disbanded train track. But still, it's pretty dangerous. So yeah. So, and then from the age of 14, I moved to Newtown, and that became more of a different experience, because Newtown, I didn't really have the friendship group, the family support, in terms of mom knowing that parent and being raised with the kids within the area. I didn't have that over in Newtown. And also the young people, the boys, they were to me, I felt like there was a bit more rough and tumble. So it was a more of a different experience. You know, putting up the fists and holding a fight was definitely something that was needed to establish oneself within the community. So yeah.
So you still live in Birmingham. How's life changed now from, like, say you were growing up at this time and you were that age at the moment? Would life be different?
Well, you know, you've got more there's more violence amongst young people. So and it's violence that can end your life. So that is very significant to my time as a child or teenage, you know, early teenage years, secondary school years. I wasn't really seeing people just getting stabbed and shot, kids by other kids. That wasn't happening. So that's significant. Also, the demographics of cultures and races, that's changed significantly. You know, the Afro-Caribbean community was strong in certain parts of the city, not anymore, gone. You know, so that looks different. Also, the way young people would go out and interact with each other. You don't see young people playing out on the streets again. Those days have come and gone as well. Youth centers, they're not, you know, we're very fortunate. We've got a center here where young people are coming. Even during COVID, we're still having vulnerable young people, but it's more of a rarity now. So those things I feel are more significant now than when I was a child.
It's interesting you mentioned about the violence and growing up. I was reading your book and it was saying, was you 10 or was you 14 when you first held a gun?
10 years old.
You were 10 years old. And then what was the 14 age? That was a significant age of 14 as
That's
well.
when I fired a gun.
Ah, okay. But nowadays, would you expect to see that? So you work with the youth. Would you expect to see a 10 or a 14-year-old doing that in this day and age, or would you not?
No, I am aware of it happening. So I think, you know, in terms of being 10 years old, that's still something that hopefully is rare amongst young people. You know, that was me stumbling across a firearm and being fast and inquisitive. And at the age of 14, that's having, in essence, a bad influence from someone who was very close to me that gave me the firearm to fire. So it's hopefully something that's rare amongst young people, but I do know there's a lot more young people by the age of 14, unfortunately, having access, seeing, holding a firearm.
Mm. So now, I was going to talk about the youth later on. I thought we could talk about your journey first, but now we're on the topic. What's the most significant thing that you see within the youth at this day and age, and how do you advise them away from, or using your own experiences, how do you advise them for that?
I think, you know, like I says, it's the youth are dealing with a peer pressure that is, you know, shaped by social media. It's shaped by consumerism, and unfortunately, you know, when I was young, top three, Ascot, British Knights, Gola, these are the trainers that kids were wearing. Okay, the odd one or two had a pair of Nike and and in a Reebok, Puma. But today, the kids are what the kids are having from they come out of the womb, the trainers they're wearing. You know, it's Nike all the way through, Jordans all the way through, Air Max this is like that was nah. So consumerism, you know, try put a kid in British Knights or Gola now, the pressure they will get at school, the mocking, they'll be fighting all day long. So the kids need to wear certain clothes to fit in. You know, I mean, within their peer groups, which puts pressure on parents, of course, and that pressure can result in parents spending more time trying to provide and reach that consumer agenda as opposed to spending time with their children. So I think the consumer side of things has definitely shaped young people's realities in a pressurized way. Likewise, social media, you know, the internet, there's so much information that is there for young people, and a lot of the time it's negative information. That's what they're seeing, you know, whether it's porn, you know, young people accessing porn from an earlier age and having a warped reality of what a relationship should be like, you know, being over sexualized via social media and content on the internet, the music. We've got British artists now, so within the music industry, yeah, fair play, it's grown. British youth are having opportunities to make money and get out of poverty and provide for their families, etc. But with that comes a glamorization of negative things, of evil behavior, of criminal activities, which pulls in more people, more young people. So as this young person comes out because they've got a record deal and, you know, they're starting to see financial stability, another group of young people comes into the pot where he's left. So these different things are happening amongst young people, and it's really about trying to present to young people. Well, first and foremost is raise awareness, enable young people to see what is taking place, you know, going on around them, and they're young, so their maturity and understanding is not going to be you know, necessarily how you would want them to respond. And then it's about presenting opportunities, making young people aware of opportunities that they probably can't see. So for me, as a young person, I thought the only way I'm going to make money is through criminality. Many young people today still think from the inner cities the only way they're going to make money is through criminality, but they've got the most opportunities ever available to them now, you know, here in England, inner city areas. So it's about giving young people the opportunities, the hope that they can actually carry out their aspirations, showing them more positive role models. And this is, you know, this is where we're trying to inspire young people through the educational side of things and enabling young people to be active. Hence why we use the sports, because, you know, doing sports, you know, I could deliver a workshop with young people, and let's say, example, we're talking about county lines and we're addressing county lines. And for those that don't know, county lines is, you know, people going from the city to the rural areas, to the smaller towns to sell drugs. Okay, so if we're covering that because a lot of young people are being exploited to go into that type of criminal activity, that can be full on. Then we go now and do some sports, which, you know, I mean, gets them physically fit. When you're physically fit, it helps the way you're thinking, it helps the way you're feeling, and so you feel better about yourself, and so you can take in information better. So this is our approach in trying to tackle, you know, some of the misdemeanors that's taking place amongst young people.
Yeah, because I think people that age, I mean, we've all been there. We've all been at a young age, and we've grown up with the youth. You're like a sponge. So whatever you're told at that time, you're only going to reciprocate the same behavior. So if you're going to be social media, music, all this, it ties into one basket. It all ties into this negative behavior or everything. It might seem good at the time, it might seem positive that I've got 400 likes on this picture, but in the back of your mind, it's ruining your mind. You don't understand, because all you're living for is other people. It's not real life. And I guess, okay, you need people like yourself and projects like this to come and tell you that. But even then, do the kids, how many times do you tell them? How many times can you tell a kid that this is wrong until they learn for themselves? So what method or what approach do you take in that?
Well, that is exactly it. What you says, there's only so much times you can tell them, but you still work with them. You still try to present opportunities. You still try to inspire them. You try to listen to them with some, you know, many young people are walking around with trauma. You know, they're feeling disheartened. So you try to be that ear and offer that support for them. But each young person will change if they're in that criminal element, or if they are doing antisocial behavior, or, you know, if they're in a downtrodden spiral. It's them that's got to make the decision to come out and then it's about giving them the tools to be able to step out. There's a saying from one charity that I used to work for: only offenders can stop offending. And that's what it is. The offenders stop offending. So yeah, and you know, in terms of young people not being discouraged to basically carry out their aspirations. And say, for instance, a young person wants to make a t-shirt company, they want to start a fashion brand, but they're in an area where nobody's made a fashion brand before. But we want to tell them about Hood Rich. We want to tell them about My Real Cover. We want to tell them about Benjart. We want to tell them about Trapstar, who are people that came from inner city areas. And we want to show them what, like, look, these people have actually did this, but it's down to the young person to then act. And we can't do that for them.
Yeah, because it's like they've taken inspiration. Like in my head, I always think that these people who end up offended from a young age, it's at no fault of their own. Maybe it's their environment, maybe it's their upbringing, but I always blame it on the fact that these films and social media, it's all out there, it's all accessible for them. So when we were saying before, they're like a sponge. It's no doubt that these kids who are so, like, they're exposed to so much of this where they can't handle it, that they end up like this. It's of no fault of their own, but they do end up like this. So I remember I was talking with Abu Musa on a podcast. He's a brother who does talks about finances a lot, and he was talking about opportunities and presenting opportunities. And sometimes it takes one sort of push for someone for them to have a bright idea, and they'll change their whole life around and their whole lineage as well.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if they can take in the knowledge, or they can take in aspiration from these films like drugs and the violence and these territory wars that are over glamorized, if we can maybe point them in instead of that direction, take them that way, and they're overexposed to the likes of entrepreneurship, and they're exposed to the likes of sports and education, and using their maybe energy somewhere which is resourceful and it's not going to affect their behavior later on, it might actually impact them in a positive way. I think that's the way sort of the society needs to do more for these kids which are growing up, because like we said, it's of no fault of their own.
Yeah, but we know from the teachings of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Jahannam, the hellfire, it's surrounded by those desirable things in it. So when we look at the cinematic approach that up to the music and the glamorization to being a gangster, firing a gun, selling drugs, this is all, you know, it's really glossed over, and it looks appealing, it looks attractive to many. But these are the things that wrap around Jahannam, and you know, the hardship, the difficulties, the slugging it out is where you find the bliss, you know, when you actually get there, the Jannah. So it's no surprise that the way young people are leaning towards, you know, bad things, you know, Shaitan, Iblis, we know, misguide them, come to them from the front of them and the back of them, from the left of them and the right of them, and inspire them with false desires. So it's the bigger picture is this is a battle between good and evil. That's the bigger picture. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has advised us with commanding the good and forbidding the evil. So this type of work, to me, it's carrying out the command of commanding the good and forbidding the evil. And that's what we've got. It's a battle. It's a battle. And these young people, they just see it as, oh, I'm gonna, you know, make some money. I'm gonna get some Gucci and some Fendi, Balenciagas. But there's a bigger battle that's going on behind. And some of these rappers, they're agents. That's what they are. They're shayateen, you know, but they're agents to misguide the youth and bring them to, you know, to the Jahannam, to that which is, you know, of a destruction for mankind. And they're playing their role in that. So yeah, it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle, and I see it from a social perspective, but also, you know, my deen is what shapes my actions.
Does it ever get frustrating to see these kids, because you've been there before in your life when you was growing up, you've been there and you've done that, and you've maybe made decisions which you wish you had done, But do you ever see these kids taking the same path and it frustrates you? Because only, like you said before, there's only so much you can say to them. But you might see them making the same mistakes, and you can't hold the hand and say to them, no, you can't do that, because what can you do for someone? But does it ever get frustrating to watch them and think, why are you taking this step?
Nah, because I understand why they're taking a step, because I was there, and it's down to you got to want it, you know. And for me to come from, for me to come to Islam at the time when I came, that's hidayah, that is guidance from, you know, a power that is beyond me, you know, because I enjoyed walking with a gun, and I enjoyed firing a gun, and I enjoyed, you know, being with my friends that was, you know, involved in antisocial and deviant behavior. So I enjoyed it, but I also didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy selling drugs. I didn't enjoy, you know, feeling the money. The money doesn't feel nice. It feels dirty. You can feel it after you've sold drugs. You can feel the dirt on your hands. So there's a conscious side to me that was like, this isn't right. And, you know, we've all got a fitra, you know, and there's a natural inclination to know what you're doing is wrong. But at the same time, you kind of push that to the back of your head, and it's like, I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing. So I can see and understand why young people are leaning towards, you know, these things. And if they don't have examples within their household, within their family structure, within their community that are positively contributing to society, and that are making a financial foundation for them and generations to come, then I can see why they're going to think, well, you know, after watching some of those rap videos where they've been in jewelry, Rolexes, some German cars, you know, and all them fabrics. I can understand, because they're in a council estate whilst they're filming it, and they look just like them, and they're watching video after video after video after video after video. So I can understand why they go that way. My job is to convey a message, to command the good, to forbid the evil, and after that,
Allah guides who he guides.
yeah.
Okay, so that's the youth, the work you're doing now. If you can talk a little bit about yourself, like I said, I don't know if you mentioned it, but we don't want to talk too much about it, because I genuinely want people to buy this book. I'm chapters in, but I said to you off camera, I stopped reading as soon as we got the date confirmed. I stopped reading it. I thought, let me talk to him first. I don't want to ruin the book for myself, but
Yeah.
we're going to talk. I'm going to mention later on. We'll go through a couple of chapters and summarize the ones that I've read. I don't want to ruin it for myself. But how does, if we can talk about just like this, instead of going through the whole thing, but how does one go from the steps that you've taken, like everything we've just spoken about, you probably have been through and more. How does one go from that to Islam and then to the position that you're in at the moment? What was like the key steps that you took in that process?
I mean, first and foremost, it's recognizing that what I was doing was wrong. It didn't sit right with me, and starting listening to my conscience. I've always queried why I'm here. What is my purpose? As I got involved in criminality and started to be around, you know, seeing somebody today, and then 2 days later, yo, they're dead. You know what? I was with them. But you know, starting to see death coming more. So now I'm starting to question death. I'm starting to wonder about death. So wondering why I'm here, and wondering where I'm gonna go. These are things that there's only so long you can push them to the back of your mind. Gets to a point where you want to investigate, you want to look into. And I found that Islam had the answers, the comprehensive answers. I looked into Christianity and I looked into the Bible, but for me personally, I wasn't getting the answers that I needed to have a better understanding of what is my purpose here on earth, and where is it that where's the options, where can I go? And then it's the journey. And the journey is having the right support, which, you know, the brothers that have been around me and my family, but the brothers that have been around me over the years, they don't, I don't think they realize and recognize how much of a support they have been for me to be sitting here and be having the mindset that I have today. They showed me what it is to be a Muslim from the Afro-Caribbean, coming from Jahiliyyah, you know, to believing in Allah, following the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and just trying to be a good Muslim, not perfect because we can't be perfect, but trying. And that was good for me, coming from the circumstances that I was coming from, and to traverse alongside them. It's been a pleasure, and I'm fortunate, you know, both in prison and out of prison, I've had support. And then also I've had people telling me I'm better than, and people seeing in me potential and verbally telling me, and it getting to the point where I'm believing I am better than, I can do this. And so these little steps enabled me to gain the confidence and start to actually dream and say, I'm gonna fulfill my dreams and I'm gonna move forward. So, you know, the whole TSA, the building I'm in, the work I do, it's all from dreaming. It's literally, I've dreamt it, daydreamed about it, imagined it, and just kept going towards it, because when we think of Allah, we think of good. And when we make dua to Allah, we don't make dua believing Allah will answer our duas. And so when I've done these things, I know things will come into fruition. And if they don't, it's because Allah is protecting me from a bigger evil. And I shall have that mindset, inshallah, until death takes me. So those are kind of the steps, without revealing contents within the book, because I've definitely can acknowledge that I've been through quite a bit of a journey. And I'm fortunate to be here and not be sitting down in jail, not be in the grave, not be mentally ill, not be on drugs, and to still be praying my 5 salawat and trying to do the actions to please Allah. I'm very fortunate, alhamdulillah.
No, as we were saying before, that Allah guides who He guides, and everyone here has a purpose. And now you're here, and you're like you. It was interesting when you were talking. I was just thinking about it, because you were saying that you had good support network, that you was growing up, and everyone needs a support network to maybe get where they want to be. But I guess now you're reciprocating that behavior for these youth as well. I know we spoke a lot about the youth, but you sort of have to mention it, that even now, because you had that support network, I guess you recognized it, and now you can act as that like safety barrier or that support network for these kids. And one day they may be sitting in the same position as you, inshallah, and saying the same thing. They could be saying, oh, we had a good support network as well. And I guess all it is nurturing, like someone saw talent in you, let's say you nurtured that talent, and now alhamdulillah, you're sat here with us. But
and I did have, you know, in terms of my upbringing, you know, my mom, who was raising, you know, myself and my 3 siblings, she really, you know, grafted and done her best. And I had my aunties, they were supporting me. But it gets to a stage where you become a man, and you need that support, that guidance and that support. And for me, unfortunately, it was a misguidance. So I had to go down a different route until the right males came in and gave me that support and that guidance in my earlier years.
I always think with that, because I've got a couple of friends who's their father figure, or the actual father at the time, they weren't around. But then the father figure that they actually or not replaced with, that's a wrong word, but they found a father figure in. They got, so I've seen multiple. Some of my friends, they've been better off. They've sort of like, they've become on deen, they were always there. And the brothers who took that father figure role, they guided them in the right way. And you can see the path that they took. But when you look at the other side, you can also see it's no fault of their own, because someone landed in their lap and they don't know any different in that moment. So they're just taking it. And whatever advice that elder person that they saw as a father figure gave them, they were going to do that regardless of the consequences. So you can sort of see both sides of the coin as well.
Indeed.
When was it, for what age were you when you first became Muslim?
I took my shahadah when I was 19.
When did you first hear about Islam?
When I was 17. yeah, when I was 17. I vaguely remember the mention of Islam in RE, but I never paid no attention to it. And I remember seeing some women in black, but again, it was just like, I just look and okay, but didn't pay no mind. It didn't resonate with me. And it was one day I was walking down a road, and I remember my friend. He was like, "Yo, we're gonna be questioning our grave when we die." And I was like, "Huh? You what? Who told you that?" And it was like I was just so inquisitive, and something happened that interrupted it. And his cousin had said little things every so often to me, and then it was in jail, when I was in jail, that I got to hold a Quran and reading Surah Al-Fatiha, and a first few surahs of Surah Al-Baqarah. I knew this was haq for me. I knew this was the truth.
Yeah. So it's sort of, I was going to ask, I guess, did it go from nothing to everything? Obviously, I know there were many, many journeys in between, but did it almost feel like that?
I feel like there was going to prison at the time, because something serious happened to me before I went to prison, which could have cost me my life. So there was certain doubts starting to creep in within this lifestyle that I'm living, and then going to prison, and being away from my loved ones. So the thoughts now started to come, and that's why people's like, oh, why come so many people turn Muslim when they go to jail? It's because you're away in a place where you can hear your thoughts, you can start to listen to what's going on in your head, what your conscience is saying to you. And so it's that period there where I've like, I found Islam now. This is me. But coming out of jail, I didn't have the network, I didn't have the support. I wouldn't have been able to tell you the difference between a mosque and a temple at the time. So I was still very ignorant to what was required from me. And it took a series of incidents, and then Allah blessing me to meet somebody that I was enabled to like, okay, here is the masjid. This is what it looks like. This is what I'm supposed to do as a Muslim. And then, each step from there to progress to where I am today.
I was going to ask that because I was going to say, like, when you're a new Muslim, I mean, we've got many reverts at university as well, and especially when they're new, you can tell because their support network they need, or the foundations that they need to build, is different from someone who sort of is in constant communication with brothers and stuff like that. So when you're coming outside of prison, the support network you've got obviously is either nothing to non-existence. How did you build that? How was your iman so strong, or was it fluctuating at the time? Was you still questioning? Did you have doubts about what you've done is the correct thing to do? Because when you're left to your own sort of environment, or you're left to your own like services in a sense, what do you do?
I still had the belief that Islam was the truth, and I was saying, I'm gonna be a Muslim one day. I'm gonna be a Muslim. That's what I used to say. I'm gonna be a Muslim, even though I'd taken my shahadah in prison. I was like, I'm gonna be a Muslim one day. But because of a couple incidences that took place, I ended up going back to the streets. I ended up going back to the crime, and actually becoming even deeper, and committing worse criminal action as a result. But in my head, I want to be a Muslim. I want to be a Muslim. And I had a couple friends who we used to speak. We'd be in the crack house, and we'd be looking out the window, waiting for a customer to come so we can sell them crack. But we're talking about we want to be a Muslim, and we want to get married. And so these are deep conversations that took place. I will never forget them because it's so significant in the place where it's being held. But what we're speaking about, I'll never forget. I can picture it now. I can picture the room. So, it got to a stage where I understood that, I'm going to end up dead, or I'm going to end up in prison for a very long time, something's gonna, just I have to make a choice. Where am I trying to get to? And I've got to go for it. And so at that point there, I said, you know what? I'm gonna be Muslim in there, right at the height of, where my reputation was, what was going on in the city with the conflict between my crew, and the rival two crews that we were in conflict with. But Alhamdulillah, Allah was merciful to me. Allah paved the way for me to manage to exit that route and have a better understanding of Islam. And just to add, 6 months into embracing, I went to Yemen, and going to Yemen to study changed my life. To this day, it still impacted me, because the experiences that I had was like hurt, like going to the old market in Yemen. It's unfortunate, it's been bombed out now. There is no old market, but it's such a significant and beautiful place. Seeing men walking around in these chemises, all day, and the women covering, and everyone greeting and smiling. And I saw men walking around with firearms on their waist, and firearms on their firearms over their shoulder, and firearms on their waist, and knives, jambias on their waist, and there was no violence. And so me, where I'm, looking about firearms and wanting to do criminal acts with the firearms, I'm in an environment where I'm surrounded by them, but no one's batting an eyelid, and everyone's just living normally. And so I started to view even, my fascination to firearms very differently. A year before that, at the age of 19, I owned 5 firearms. So firearms was something that I had a real keen interest for. So, I was very fortunate to go through that experience in Yemen, and it helped shape the direction that I would go in the future.
I hope you don't mind mentioning this, because it is in the book. But you went to Yemen for a reason. You was at that time. You was on the run, wasn't you?
Yes. So when I had made the conscious decision to change it, a criminal act that I had committed came to bite me. The police came and charged me. So what people don't realize is that I had made the decision to practice Islam before I was charged, but I had been arrested, and it's being arrested and being questioned for it made me say, you're going. And I was being questioned for stuff that I had nothing to do with, but they were all serious offenses. So I could see the direction that I was heading. So from that, I was like, nah, I gotta sort myself out. But then they charged me, and I made, I prayed, and I got bail, and from that, I knew that I would be looking prison. When I met my solicitor, it said, you're looking 15 years, like 15 years, and I'm trying to change. Nah, on that, they can catch me, and I got off. And so Yemen was one of the places that I went to.
Why Yemen? Everywhere. You could have gone anywhere at that moment, I guess, couldn't you?
Because Yemen, I hadn't really thought of going abroad, but Yemen, I was hearing about Yemen from the Muslim community that I was in, hearing about it's a place where people are studying, they're learning Arabic, they're going to learn the Quran, they're getting to, live that lifestyle that we read about in the books, and draw closer to the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I was like, yo, I'm fresh. I've got so much zeal, and I want to become a better person. I know I'm going to go to jail, but I want to be a better person. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going for it. And the day before I was supposed to be in court, I dipped off. I went on that plane.
And that was it. Do you know what they say? There's a silver lining behind everything. And why I was just thinking about it is because I was saying to you before, there's a brother called Shoaib Islam who I spoke to before this, and he had an amazing story where after he'd even become Muslim, he didn't know nothing wrong. He was on parole, which he didn't realize, but he went to a firearms, shooting ranges you can go to.
Yeah.
but he wasn't allowed. So then what happened was, as soon as he went there and he went to the shooting range and he shot a few fires and whatnot, the police turned up and then they took him, and then in 48 months he was inside prison after that, and that was a
license. Yeah, he violated his license.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
3 years to have access to firearms.
Yeah, but we were talking about that, the things that he got up to, and would he be in the same position he would be in now if he didn't go through that? And we were saying, you know what, like everything has a reason behind it. So even you going to Yemen, did it create that foundation for you to become who you are now? So
most definitely, but it made me know Islam's the truth, and the reason why I know Islam is the truth is because I was afflicted with jinn. So a jinn possessed me whilst I was over there in Yemen. And somebody I know who the person was that did some sihr magic upon me, and my jinn took it shahadah, and I can remember the readings being read upon, and me being at the back of my body and the jinn being at the front. The jinn's in control at the time, and I'm sitting there in my body and I can see what's going on, but I can't do anything about it. I experienced that. Wow. Islam is the haqq. Islam is the truth. That there, Islam is the truth. Just that experience there, no one can't tell me different. No one can't tell me different.
So that's what I was talking about.
My iman may fall, and it will rise, as we know. Iman increases and decreases, but I know Islam is the truth. I know it.
So these experiences, anytime you have a fluctuation in your iman or your experience, the experiences are something that you're always going to hold on to. So even, how long were you in Yemen? You was in Yemen 4 years, wasn't you?
No. I was on the run from the police for a number of years, but I was in Yemen for 4.5 months.
4.5 months, right? Okay. Yeah. Wow. So in 4.5 months, you went through a hell of a lot first.
And I experienced that, and it was really challenging, really difficult. I didn't know what's going on. It's a very new thing to me to experience. But again, I had support. Even in Yemen, I still had the support. And man, my iman was rock solid. And I hope I'm not saying something out of turn and wrong, but my iman, just the feeling, and I was giving my jinn dawah. So I was, talking to my jinn, and it's a test, isn't it? It's a test from Allah, but Allah blessed me with ease after that hardship. So yeah, man, alhamdulillah.
This was a question I was going to ask you at the beginning. Actually, there was a question on the cards which said, when was like a point in your life, when's like the highest iman you've ever felt? Was it at that moment? If you could,
I reckon it's probably it's that time when I remember walking to the masjid for like Fajr and before Yemen, and just looking at the trees, and I've not been able to see the trees how I used to see the trees back then. The clouds, I've not been able to see the clouds how I saw the clouds back then. I wish it would, it was different, and then going to Yemen, man, subhanallah, amazing.
They call it taqwa, don't they? Having mindfulness of Allah in everything you do. So the height of your iman. I mean, Ramadan's coming up, and that's what we're supposed to be achieving in Ramadan, taqwa. But and everyone in their life, in that 12-month period, you can look back at that 1 month of Ramadan of your life being the highest point of iman. Even if you forget the Ramadan before, but there's going to be one Ramadan in your life where you're going to think back, that was the pinnacle of my iman so far. And we always try and get there. And that's what you're sort of describing there. In like, you look at the trees differently, you look at a bottle of water differently, you see differently. It's amazing.
Funny enough, not my best, but one of my most memorable Ramadans is in jail. It's actually in prison.
How is that? What's life like? I mean, I've never spoke to anyone about Ramadan in jail, but do they cater for?
No, but let me give you a breakdown then. It's going to depend on the prison you're in. So I didn't go to the category A prisons, but I've gone through the B cat, C cat, and D cat system. So that is the type of security level Depending, the B cat is a higher security level, and D cat is just a fence or even no fence around the prison, one fence. So I've experienced Ramadan in the D cat, the C cat, and the B cat. And in the B cat, it was my first Ramadan. It was my first Ramadan in prison, and I had gone to a jail, and I mentioned this jail in my book, and there was some rivals there, and alhamdulillah, they had turned Muslim as well, and things could have got sticky, but Iman and Allah placing love in the hearts of those who previously were enemies that were now brothers. That was amazing and beautiful. And during that Ramadan, we would go to the multi-faith building. So you don't have a masjid in prison, you have a multi-faith building. And there's a section within the multi-faith building that you can pray. It's just similar to, I think, some airports that I've been in. They've got like what's called a multi-faith.
Yeah, we have them at uni as well, the multi-faith rooms. Yeah.
So we would go to the multi-faith building and we would break our fast. Then we would pray Salat al-Maghrib, and then we would have iftar, and then we would stay there. And then Isha would come in and we would pray Isha, and then we would do Tarawih. And the Imam completed the Quran in that Ramadan, and we were in prison. That's the only ever time I've experienced that. All the other times, it's Maghrib time. It might be association where we can be out of ourselves and, the mingling. So it's Maghrib time, so you can break your fast then. Or it might be a time where the cell door's closed and it's Maghrib time and you break your fast, and it's you in yourself. I did most of my sentence, 98% of my sentence, I served the time alone. I just prefer it like that. And I know what to say to make them put me in a single cell. Okay, so I would, break my fast. It's just me, the bed, the table, the chairs, the toilet, the sink, and I would break my fast on my own, very quiet, the wings very quiet, and I'm in my cell, pray Maghrib, and then the iftar would be, it will come in like this container, which is supposed to, keep food warm. And, the food's not the best. Okay, it's not the best by any stretch of the imagination. It's prisoners that cook the food, and if the prisoners can cook, then you've got a decent meal. If they know what they're doing, and if the prisoners don't know what they're doing, then you're gonna have to just make do. And so you would either eat that food or get some onions from the kitchens, chop them up, put them in your kettle, put some margarine in the kettle, because it's a travel pack kettle, so the base of the kettle's flat and it heats up. So you would pour you put the margarine on that, the onions. If you get some tomatoes in your salad or whatever, you chop that up, you put it in there, you open a tin of mackerel and you pour your mackerel in, and you just you heat up the mackerel. If you manage to get seasonings, you do that. You have that with your noodles, or you have that with the food that you've got, and that's what you've got to do. And you've got to pray, your Isha by yourself. You've got to do your Tarawih by yourself, and that's the experience. So it can be pretty lonely, and if you're in a prison that is Victorian, the experience is a lot different to a prison that's more modern. So that in a nutshell is prison. And then Eid, is always the case. Out here's doing Eid on one particular day, they're doing Eid on another particular day, and you've got that battle that you've got to deal with. And of course, everyone tries to make an effort. You don't do, well, we would tend to pray Eid Salah about 9-10 o'clock, and then have our Eid feast then. The Eid feast will be then, or it will be a bit later. They allow us to go back down to the multi-faith center and have our Eid feast a bit later. And that's your Eid. You make your phone calls to your family, but that's your Eid, man. That's your Eid.
It sounds like there's I don't want to call them positives. I don't want
There
to
is.
call them negative. But do you know what we in? So when we're out here in the masjid in the final 10 days, you have people go and spend their nights, don't you? In the final 10 days in the masjid, and they call it like it's like an intense. If you've not done much in the first 20 days, you can go there. You've got the time to yourself in your own little tents, and all you're doing, you're praying, you're being mindful of everything you do. You've got no contact with the outside world. But what I was thinking when you were talking about, I mean, they do that for a reason. It's prescribed to us to do that for a reason. Now, if you're in
Yeah.
prison, you're spending 30 days on your own, and I can understand that it gets lonely and the food isn't as best, but for the purpose that we're given Ramadan, it sounds to me it's like the perfect package that you've been given. You've got this reclusive
Um,
in a
I can
sense. I'm not
I
over
can see
glorifying
that.
it. I mean, I've not experienced this. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to sit here and over glorify it and say, "Oh, it sounds amazing." But from what the purpose of Ramadan is, in a sense, like you're supposed to be pray, be mindful. You've got all your 5 times. If you can fit them in on time as well. Even like the moments before Ramadan when your du'a is accepted, you're going to have no distractions where you are. So you're just going to be sat there. You're going to be making your prayers. You're going to be making your du'as. Am I oversimplifying it, or was it like
You're
that?
most definitely oversimplifying it, but I expect that from someone who
Yeah,
hasn't been
yeah.
to prison and hasn't experienced the environment. Prisons are volatile environments. You know, there's drugs, mental health. You're surrounded by drugs, mental health, and violence day in day out. And if you're in a prison where there's the Muslims, the non-Muslims are trying to oppress the Muslims, and there's that conflict that tends to happen, especially in the prisons more up north, or you're in prisons where people have more of a takfiri mindset, and you're having to battle that. So it is what you said, but you've got the other things as well that you have to battle with, and it's where your iman is at the time is how best your Ramadan will basically be. But
I'm looking at it through this like a tunnel vision.
yeah, there's some beautiful pros, and looking back, man, it's a great opportunity, great time to get on your Arabic, memorize portions, if not all of the Quran. Keep up with your Sunnah salahs and
Yeah, I'm
Tashahhud salahs. But that's, again, it's oversimplifying it. It's about the iman. It's about where a person's at, how focused they are, that they make use of the time, because the distractions, there's still many. They're not necessarily as many as out here, but there's still many.
Yeah, but alone time doesn't necessarily. I mean, now thinking about that, alone time doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good time. Sometimes it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to sit there praying your qiyam. You're going to be doing your du'as. It could be anything behind the closed doors. You don't know. So I guess
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, it's oversimplification. I've just got last two final questions. The last one is: has your previous life ever caught up with you? Because I wanted to ask it before, as in, was it that easy to leave a life like that? You said you left when you was up here.
Nah, I've had there was 3 attempts on my life. So most definitely there was period, I've had to leg it. I've had to run for my life. I've been in a house where the rivals were trying to kick down the door, and I've had to call the brothers who were at the masjid just around the corner. So there's been those instances during my time to be a better individual, better Muslim.
And the last one was, in all of that we've just spoken about, what's your biggest regret?
It would be sins that I've committed that I hope that Allah will forgive me for on from the grave to Yawm al-Qiyamah. So I would say there's certain sins that are being committed that I'm very regretful for.
Yeah.
And I seek Allah's forgiveness.
Inshallah. Okay, BarakAllahu
So,
feek.
yeah.
Jazakallah khair for joining us. I know I've taken a lot of your time. The final thing I want to say is, I've got the book here. Honestly, it genuinely is amazing. I got this off Amazon a while ago. I can't remember how much it was.
$9.99 on Amazon, but it's also available. Signed copies are available from www.tanayahsam.com. So the signed copies are available from that website, www.tanayahsam.com. And the audio, I've got the audio, you know, I've literally
Have you finished that?
did the audio, and I've delayed. The audio's been ready for months, but I'm not comfortable to drop the audio yet, and I don't know what it is. But until I feel that ease within myself, it's very different reading the book to hearing it. The book, I've tried to make it as film-like as possible. So the characters, it's different voices. There is atmospheric sounds that are going on. You know, if I've entered into a place, you know it. You know, I definitely put some work into it, but I need to be clear within myself. The intentions for putting the book out are correct. I need to feel that the right message is being put across. And I know there can be some who are offended, and I don't want it to increase or start up any form of conflict. So, you know, this is my journey from, you know, a youth who was happy-go-lucky to going towards, you know, criminality, being involved in a gang, to being guided to Islam. And the message needs to be that within myself. I just need to feel that. So yeah.
I always think that even before this, I spoke to someone about the podcast I was going to do, and I was saying to them, I don't want it to be for entertainment purposes. And like the second or third podcast I did was about gambling addiction, and the brother went through an amazing journey, and he was like a Islamic teacher, gambling addict, and then he got his life back together again, alhamdulillah. But I said to him at the beginning, I don't want it to be entertainment purposes because we're doing it for the wrong reasons. Then I want it to be for inspiration, like an iman booster.
Right.
And we can all sit here, we can hear it. It's like an iman booster. And when I read this book, I mean, I'm only a couple of chapters in, but I felt that's what I was going to be getting from it. Like, you feel good about yourself in a sense, like if someone can take this journey, then the truth is, it's the truth. I mean, you should never doubt the truth, but you think you're on the truth path. Do you know what I mean? If someone can take that whole journey and they still end up being Muslim, first of all, it makes you like say thanks to Allah that you were born a Muslim and you never had to experience that to get where you've ended up. But you also think if someone can make that whole journey, they can go through everything they've been through and then still end up praying the 5 times a day, alhamdulillah, and doing the work that they're doing. It's an iman booster in yourself, and it puts like even faith within the society and the support that you were given. It puts even faith into them as well. So honestly, definitely would recommend. It's got everything here. I was just looking at the contents of it. It's got Burger Bar Terrorists. I've read that one. That was a good one. You got Frontline. You mentioned the Frontline before as well. What a Fool. I've not read that one yet, but I can. I don't. It sounds good. It sounds good. What a Fool. You got your own Brotherhood First, Redemption 2007, Daily Struggle. It's all in there. Honestly, it's a really, really good book. So I would recommend it to anyone. Man. It's 10 quid. So what is 10 quid?
That's it, man. And it will definitely give people an insight for sure.
Yeah. When are we expecting it?
Definitely. I've been open. I've been open with my journey to show people the difficulties and the ease within the lifestyle. But if somebody is not in a gang, if someone's not committing crime, I hope that they still can take benefit knowing the difficulties. And you know, we are all in charge of our choices, and our decisions have consequences. And you know, I hope people can benefit from the book in that way. So
no, definitely, Mail. I grant it for you as a Sadaqah Jariyah for people to keep them guided and maybe take some inspiration from as well, rather than just using it for entertainment purposes. As much as it is an entertainment, I use it as my evening read, so it is sort of a recreational time as well, but it's used in good. I guess, alhamdulillah. Is there anything else you want to say? Final words? Any other shout outs you want to give? Maybe about TSA, just a little bit.
Yeah, man. The TSA projects, I've got an amazing team, and they're doing really well over COVID. COVID's been nuts in terms of the lockdown, in terms of, you know, some of the feelings I felt, you know, during lockdown, which has brought me back to being in prison. And lockdown is not prison. It isn't. But there are feelings that can come similar to if someone's being in prison. Most definitely, mental health can be impacted. And for me and my team to be able to work with young people and work with families and try and support them during such a difficult time. Alhamdulillah, very grateful and fortunate to be in a position to do so. And I hope that we can benefit, inspire others here on out, inshallah. So yeah.
BarakAllahu feekum. May Allah bless you in all the work that you're doing, accept it from you. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you everyone out there who is going to be listening to this shortly, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وديني سلامي يا رايح للحرم، وادعي لي وسلم لي على هادي الأمم.